The stars shimmered like distant memories through the reinforced dome of Athena 9. Dr. Mara Voss stood alone in the exhibition hall, her reflection ghosting against the transparent aluminum as she stared out at the methane lakes of Titan. 75 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Alliance, yet sometimes Mara felt like they had merely been granted a seat at the children's table during a cosmic dinner party. The faint blue lights of the archaeological station cast eerie patterns across the frozen landscape, outside a constant reminder of how far from home they all were. The year 2175 had brought many wonders, but here on Saturn's largest moon, Mara felt the weight of being one of only 17 humans among over 300 extraterrestrial researchers. As the head archaeologist specializing in pre-Alliance artifacts, she carried the additional burden of proving that humans belonged among these ancient, technologically superior civilizations. Still admiring the view, the voice startled her, though she didn't turn immediately. The exhibition hall should have been empty at this hour. "It reminds me of my limits," Mara replied, finally facing engineer Ilan Reyes, whose lanky form emerged from between rows of display cases. His dark eyes held the same weary intelligence they always did after a 16-hour shift. "You mean the limits of humanity," he corrected, joining her at the window. "You take too much responsibility for an entire species, Mara." She offered a tight smile. "Someone has to. The Multi-Universal Council meets in 3 weeks to review our contribution to the Alliance. 75 years is barely a heartbeat to the Ephrians or the Anthari. We're still novelties to them curious primates who somehow built spaceships." Elon shrugged. "And yet they signed the treaty. We must have something worth their attention." "Political expediency," Mara countered, turning back to the displays. Her footsteps echoed through the cavernous hall as she moved toward the ancient weapons section. "They needed our solar system's strategic position during the Centauri conflict. Now the war's over, they're reevaluating whether we're worth the resource allocation." Elon followed his breath, fogging slightly in the carefully controlled cold of the preservation area. "You sound like you've been reading too many classified reports." "I have clearance," she said, absently stopping before a particularly unremarkable display. Inside, a simple crystal case, floated what appeared to be a metallic bust, half submerged in preservation fluid. The plaque merely read, "Caliburn Artifact, Origin Unknown, Date approximately 35,000 years pre-Alliance, Function Unidentified." Elon regarded the object with professional indifference. "The mysterious box Caliburn. No one's been able to determine what it does, if anything. Some think it's purely ceremonial." Mara's fingers hovered near the transparent barrier, not quite touching. 37 different species have studied it. 17 have attempted synchronization protocols. None successful. Her voice dropped almost to a whisper. "What if humans could activate it? Then you'd be the darling of the Alliance and humanity would be secure for another century," Elon said with a small smile. "But you'd need to get past Security Chief Thexus first, and that Voltraxian lives to say no to research requests." Mara didn't respond. Something about the artifact had always called to her, its almost humanoid shape, the way the liquid seemed to shift slightly whenever she approached, though instruments detected no movement. She often found herself here during late shifts, studying the inscrutable object that had defied the best minds of 37 advanced civilizations. "I should finish my rounds," Elon said after a moment of silence. "Don't stay too late. Even brilliant archaeologists need sleep." "I'll head back soon," she promised, not taking her eyes from the display. After Elon's footsteps faded, Mara stood motionless alone with the artifacts. In the reflected surfaces, she saw only a slight human woman with prematurely silver-streaked dark hair and eyes too serious for her 42 years. Nothing remarkable. Nothing that would impress beings who had mastered interstellar travel before humans had discovered agriculture. "What makes us worthy?" she asked the empty hall, her voice barely audible. The question hung unanswered absorbed by the perfect acoustic dampening of the exhibition space. She turned to leave when something made her pause a flicker at the edge of her vision. Turning slowly, she focused again on the Caliburn artifact. For a brief moment, she thought she'd imagined it, but then there. A pulse of blue energy so faint, it might have been a reflection from the overhead lights. Except the station's lighting system ran at a steady frequency, never pulsing. Mara approached the display again, her heart accelerating. She glanced at the monitoring panel. Nothing. No energy readings, no changes in temperature or composition. Yet, as she drew closer, the almost imperceptible glow intensified slightly, then faded to nothing the moment she touched the case. With trembling fingers, she activated her wrist console and checked the security feeds. The cameras showed nothing unusual, just an archaeologist staring at an artifact. But she had seen it. She was certain. For the first time in years, Mara felt something beyond professional determination, a spark of genuine excitement, of possibility. She checked the time. Nearly midnight station standard. Most of the staff would be in their quarters. The rational part of her mind argued for protocol file, a report request of formal investigation, wait for approval. But another voice, one she rarely heeded, whispered that this might be humanity's only chance to prove their worth before the Council's review. Just a closer look, she murmured to herself, overriding the minimal security on the display case with her administrative code. The preservation fluid remained perfectly still as the lock disengaged with a soft click. The sound of the main doors sliding open sent a jolt of panic through her. Hastily, she resealed the case and stepped back, adopting a casual pose, as if merely studying the artifact. "Dr. Voss," came the formal greeting from Security Chief Thexus. The Voltraxians, 4 eyes, blinking in sequence, a sign of suspicion in his species. "Unusual hours for artifact observation." "I find the quiet conducive to thinking," Mara replied, keeping her voice level. "The daytime crowds make concentration difficult." Thexus made a clicking sound with his mandibles. "Indeed. However, station protocols suggest rest cycles should be observed by all personnel, even department heads." His upper eyes remained fixed on her, while his lower pair scanned the display case. "Was there a security override on this unit recently?" Mara's mouth went dry. "I was checking the preservation fluid levels. There seemed to be a slight discrepancy in the monitoring system." "And was there—" "No," she admitted. "A false reading. I've reset the sensors." Thexus studied her for an uncomfortable moment. "Very conscientious, Dr. Voss. Perhaps too conscientious. The director has expressed concerns about your work hours." "I'll keep that in mind," she said, forcing a smile. "See that you do." The security chief turned to leave, then paused. "The artifacts have remained dormant for millennia. They will still be here after you've rested." After Thexus departed, Mara released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She cast one last look at the Caliburn artifact, now completely inert, and forced herself to walk away. But her mind raced with what she had seen and what it might mean. Sleep eluded her that night. In her sparse quarters, Mara reviewed everything known about the Caliburn artifact, frustratingly little, despite decades of study. Discovered on a dead world at the edge of the Sagittarius Arm, it had resisted all attempts at analysis. Its composition appeared metallic, but contained elements unknown to Alliance science. Its purpose remained a mystery, though theories ranged from ceremonial object to weapon to advanced computing device. What none of the reports mentioned was any kind of energy signature or response to presence. What she had witnessed had never been documented. By morning, Mara had made her decision. Protocol would mean committee's reviews and ultimately alien oversight of any significant discovery. If humans were to prove their worth, she needed to act independently, at least until she understood what she was dealing with. The opportunity came 3 days later, when she was scheduled for inventory duty in the lower storage levels. Using her department head credentials, she temporarily disabled the monitoring systems in a seldom-used corridor, citing maintenance needs. Then, with practiced efficiency, she accessed the exhibition hall during shift change and approached the Caliburn display. This time, she was prepared. Her scanner would detect any energy fluctuations, no matter how subtle. As she drew near, the device remained silent, showing nothing unusual. Disappointment settled heavy in her stomach. Had she imagined it after all? On impulse, she reached out and placed her palm flat against the transparent case. For 5 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then, just as she began to withdraw her hand, the scanner chirped softly. A cold energy signature, almost undetectable, emanated from the artifact. As she watched breathless, the blue glow appeared again, stronger this time, pulsing in a pattern that seemed almost deliberate. Without hesitation, Mara overrode the security protocols and opened the case. The preservation fluid normally still, as glass rippled slightly, as if disturbed by an unseen force. The artifact floated serenely unchanged to the naked eye, yet her scanner showed increasing energy readings. She needed to examine it properly, away from the monitoring systems of the main hall. With quick, practiced movements, she transferred the artifact to a portable stasis container. The blue glow dimmed, but didn't disappear entirely as she sealed the unit. Heart pounding, Mara transported her precious cargo through the service corridors to her private laboratory. Few at the station knew about this space officially designated for preliminary analysis of newly arrived artifacts, but which had become her sanctuary for uninterrupted work. Once inside, she secured the door and carefully placed the stasis container on the examination table. Through the transparent sides, the blue glow had intensified again, pulsing more rapidly, as if in anticipation. "What are you?" she whispered, activating the lab's specialized scanning equipment. "And why are you responding now after all this time?" The initial scans revealed little beyond what was already known: unusual metallic composition, hollow interior, no detectable power source. Yet the energy readings continued defying the laws of physics, as understood by Alliance science. Mara hesitated, then slowly opened the stasis field. The preservation fluid rippled more actively now, and the blue glow brightened. Following instinct, rather than protocol, she reached into the fluid and gasped as her fingers made contact with the artifact. A sensation like cold electricity raced up her arm, not painful, but intense. The fluid around the artifact began to move as if alive, swirling in complex patterns. The bust-like shape seemed to soften its features, becoming less defined as the metal took on a more liquid quality. Alarm bells rang in Mara's mind, but she found herself unable to pull away. The fluid crawled up her arm, enveloping her hand in cool metallic embrace. Rather than panic, she felt an odd sense of calm, of rightness. "Dr. Voss, what have you done?" The voice shattered her trance. Elon stood in the doorway, security override code still flashing on the panel. His expression shifted from surprise to horror as he took in the scene. "Mara, get away from it!" He lunged forward but stopped as the liquid metal reacted to his approach, forming a barrier between them. "It's responding to me, Elon," Mara said, her voice strangely distant. "All these years, all those alien scientists, it was waiting for a human." "That's the artifact talking, not you," Elon said cautiously, circling around the table. "That thing is interfacing with your nervous system somehow. We need to break the connection before it goes too far." Mara shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. It's showing me things: knowledge, history, purpose. It's not a weapon or a tool. It's a library, a repository." Her eyes widened. "And it chose me." Elon made another move toward her, but the liquid metal expanded further now, covering Mara's entire arm and beginning to spread across her torso. "Whatever it's telling you is manipulation. That thing is thousands of years old from a dead civilization. You can't trust it." A flicker of doubt crossed Mara's face, but then the blue glow intensified, and her expression cleared. "They weren't dead, Elon. They evolved. beyond physical form, beyond the limitations of matter. What we found was just a shell they left behind, a gift for whoever came next. And you think that's us humans, the newest, weakest species in the Alliance? Elon's voice held equal parts fear and skepticism. Not because we're special, Mara said softly, as understanding dawned. Because we're not. Because after countless civilizations rose to power and self-destructed, what the universe needed wasn't more strength or intelligence, but humility. The liquid had now covered most of her body, forming what looked increasingly like armor, elegant form-fitting, rippling with that strange blue energy. Only her face remained exposed, her eyes reflecting the azure light. "Mara, listen to me," Elon pleaded. "The station sensors have detected the energy spike. Security is on their way. If they find you like this, they'll classify you as a threat. Please let go of it before—" The laboratory door slid open again, revealing Chief Thexus, flanked by 2 armed security officers. The Voltraxian's 4 eyes widened at the sight before him. "Containment breach," he barked, raising his weapon. "Human, release the artifact immediately, or we will use force." Mara turned to face them, and the liquid metal flowed with her movement, graceful as water, yet solid as steel. "I can't release it, Chief. It has chosen me as its conduit." "That is unacceptable," Thexus said coldly. "The artifact belongs to the Alliance, not to humanity." "It belongs to no one," Mara replied. "And it has rejected the Alliance for thousands of years." Thexus signaled his officers, who raised their weapons. "This is your final warning, Dr. Voss. Disengage from the artifact or face immediate neutralization." Before Mara could respond, Elon stepped between them. "Chief, please. We don't understand what's happening. Give us time to analyze the situation. Dr. Voss is a respected scientist, not a threat." "Step aside, Engineer Reyes," Thexus ordered. "This is now a security matter, not a scientific one." Elon stood his ground. "At least contact the director. This could be a momentous discovery, not an emergency." The moment of hesitation was all the artifact needed. The blue energy suddenly pulsed outward from Mara in a concentric wave, passing harmlessly through Elon, but causing the security systems to flicker and die. The lights dimmed, then switched to emergency power. "What have you done?" Thexus demanded, his weapon now inert in his hands. "Not me," Mara said, looking as surprised as the others. "It's protecting itself, and me." Alarms began to sound throughout the station. Through the laboratory windows, Mara could see personnel rushing toward emergency stations, panic evident in their movements. "You've compromised the entire facility," Thexus said, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "The Alliance will consider this an act of aggression." "No," Mara said with sudden certainty. "Only the non-essential systems have been affected. Life support and structural integrity are untouched." She looked down at her metal-encased hands with wonder. "It's incredibly precise and intelligent." A voice came over the emergency channel, cutting through the alarm sounds. "Attention all personnel. This is Director Naleth. An unknown energy surge has been detected in Research Section 7. All non-essential personnel are to evacuate to designated safety zones. Security teams converge on Section 7. This is not a drill." Thexus's upper eyes narrowed. "You've doomed yourself, Dr. Voss, and possibly your entire species. The Council will not look kindly on this breach of protocol." Mara felt a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the armor covering her body. The Council review was in less than 3 weeks. If they perceived this as a human attempt to claim ancient technology for themselves, the consequences would be severe. Yet, even as fear threatened to overwhelm her, information flowed into her mind from the artifact, its origins, its purpose, its criteria for selection. Millennia of knowledge waiting for the right moment, the right person. "I need to speak to the director," she said, with newfound resolve. "This isn't what anyone thinks it is." "You'll speak to no one," Thexus responded. "You'll remain here under guard until a containment team arrives." Elon, who had been silent during this exchange, suddenly spoke up. The artifact is still active and spreading. We don't know what else it might do if threatened. Bringing in more security could escalate the situation. Your concern is noted, Engineer Reyes, Thexus said dismissively. But this human has violated multiple security protocols and endangered the station. Standard procedure will be followed. As if in response to his words, the liquid metal suddenly completed its encasement of Mara, flowing over her face to form a sleek, featureless helmet. Elon cried out in alarm, but before anyone could react, the blue energy pulsed again, stronger this time. Every piece of technology in the room failed simultaneously. Weapons communicators, even the reinforced door, which sealed shut with a final sounding thud. Inside the helmet, Mara experienced a moment of blind panic before realizing she could breathe normally. More than that, she could see through the metal as if it weren't there, though everything was tinted with that ghostly blue light. And she could hear a voice not with her ears, but directly in her mind. Ancient, patient, and unmistakably alien. At last, it said, a worthy vessel. The station's response was swift and predictable. Within minutes, security teams surrounded the laboratory armed with both standard weapons and emergency EMP devices designed to disable rogue technology. Director Nalith, a tall, serene Ephraim, with skin like polished obsidian, observed from the command center, as feeds from security cameras showed the standoff. Status report. She demanded, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with controlled agitation. The human archaeologist has fully bonded with artifact XC-117, commonly called Caliburn, reported her assistant. All attempts to communicate have failed. Security Chief Thexus and Engineer Reyes are trapped inside with her. Life signs are stable for all three. And the artifact? Energy readings continue to increase, but are contained to the laboratory area. No signs of spreading or station-wide effects. Director Nalith's four-fingered hand tapped thoughtfully against the console. Has the Council been notified? Not yet, Director. Protocol suggests containing the situation first, then. The Council will be notified immediately, Nalith interrupted. This involves a Class 5 artifact and a probationary species. We have no discretion in this matter. Inside the sealed laboratory, Mara struggled to process the flood of information pouring into her consciousness. The artifact, Caliburn as humans had named it, was indeed a repository of knowledge, but it was also much more. It was a test, a key, and a safeguard created by a species so ancient they had no name in any modern tongue. We watched civilizations rise and fall, the voice explained. Each one brilliant, ambitious, and ultimately self-destructive. Each one certain they were destined to rule the stars. And humans? Mara asked aloud, causing Elan and Thexus to look at her with confusion. Humans doubt, came the reply. Humans question. Most importantly, humans recognize their limitations. This makes you uniquely qualified. Qualified for what? She whispered. The answer emerged not as words, but as understanding, an unfolding revelation that left her breathless. Caliburn wasn't merely a repository of scientific knowledge. It contained the collective wisdom of a species that had transcended physical existence, including information deemed too dangerous for young, aggressive civilizations. Technologies that could elevate a species to new heights, or ensure their destruction if misused. Dr. Voss, Elan's voice broke through her thoughts. Are you still... you... The question startled her back to awareness of her surroundings. Through the helmet, she could see Elan's concerned face and Thexus's tense posture. Yes, she said, her voice sounding strange through the armor. I'm still me. But I understand now what this is, why it chose me. Perhaps you would care to enlighten us, Thexus said sarcastically, before the containment team breaches that door and neutralizes you. They can't, Mara said with certainty. Caliburn won't allow it. Not until its purpose is fulfilled. And what purpose is that? Elan asked quietly. Before she could answer, a new voice came over the emergency system. Attention, unauthorized user of artifact XC-117. This is Council Enforcer Vexalia. You are hereby ordered to surrender the artifact immediately. Failure to comply will result in Level 9 containment procedures. Mara felt a chill. Level 9 containment meant the potential sacrifice of the entire facility to prevent a greater threat. It was a measure reserved for the most dangerous situations: ancient weapons, uncontrolled biological agents, dimensional rifts. They think I'm a threat to the Alliance, she said, the realization heavy in her chest. They fear what they do not understand, the voice commented, as all young species do. I need to speak to them, Mara decided. Explain what's happening. They will not listen. They have already judged. Despite the artifact's warning, Mara moved toward the sealed door. I have to try. Lives are at stake. The armor flowed with her, adapting to her movements with liquid grace. As she approached the door, however, alarms began to sound throughout the station, more urgent than before. Through the small window, she could see security personnel retreating, emergency bulkheads descending. The containment protocol had been activated. They're sealing off this entire section, Thexus said, his professional calm finally cracking. They're going to jettison us into space. No, Mara said, pressing her hand against the door. I won't let that happen. The blue energy flowed from her fingertips, spreading across the door and into the surrounding systems. Alarms faltered, then fell silent. The emergency lights steadied. Throughout the station, systems that had been compromised suddenly restored themselves, functioning perfectly once more. In the command center, Director Naileth watched in astonishment as control returned to her consoles. What's happening? She demanded. The artifact. It's interfacing with our systems, her assistant reported, voice trembling. But not in an aggressive manner. It's optimizing them. A new window opened on the main display, a communication request from the sealed laboratory. After a moment's hesitation, Naileth accepted. Mara's armored form appeared on screen, the featureless helmet somehow conveying determination, despite its lack of expression. Director Naileth, she said, her voice distorted but recognizable. Please, call off the containment protocol. I can explain everything. You have violated multiple security regulations, endangered this station, and interfered with Alliance technology, Naileth replied coldly. Your explanation is irrelevant. With respect, Director, it is not. Caliburn has chosen me for a reason, and that reason affects the entire Alliance. Council Enforcer Vexalia has authority in this matter now, not I, Naileth said. And she has ordered Level 9 containment. A new figure stepped into view, tall, regal, with scaled skin that shimmered with iridescent patterns. The Anthari Enforcer's vertical pupils narrowed as she regarded Mara's transformed appearance. Human, Vexalia said, her voice melodious, yet cold. You have accessed technology beyond your species' clearance level. Surrender it immediately or face extinction. Inside her armor, Mara felt a surge of both fear and indignation. Extinction. For studying an artifact that has been available to every Alliance species for centuries. How is that justice? Justice is irrelevant, the Enforcer replied. Security is paramount. Your primitive species cannot comprehend the dangers of what you have accessed. The condescension in the Anthari's voice sparked something in Mara, a quiet defiance that had always been there beneath her professional demeanor and careful diplomacy. Actually, she said, straightening to her full height, which still fell short of the imposing Anthari. I comprehend it perfectly. Caliburn has shared its knowledge with me. Do you know why it rejected every other species that tried to access it? Because they all sought it for power, for advantage over others. It was designed to respond only to a species with the humility to use knowledge wisely. Vexalia's scales rippled in what might have been amusement or contempt. And you believe humans possess this quality? Your history suggests otherwise. Our history taught us the price of arrogance, Mara replied. We nearly destroyed ourselves before we reached the stars. We learned our lessons the hard way, which is why we recognize the responsibility that comes with power. The Enforcer studied her for a long moment. Pretty words. But the Council has made its decision. You have 1 hour to surrender the artifact, or this station will be cleansed." The communication ended abruptly, leaving Mara staring at a blank screen. Inside the laboratory, Thexus had gone rigid with shock. "Cleansed," Elon echoed. "They would destroy an entire research station. There are over 300 people here." "They fear what the artifact might contain," Thexus said quietly, "and what humans might do with it." Mara turned to face them, the featureless helmet now retracting to reveal her troubled expression. "They're right to fear it. Caliburn contains knowledge that could reshape the Alliance or destroy it. But they're wrong about humanity." "What does it want with you?" Elon asked. "Why you specifically?" "Not me personally," Mara explained. "Any human might have triggered it. We're uniquely qualified because of our history, our psychology. We've made so many mistakes, seen so clearly what unchecked ambition and technology can do to a civilization. We don't trust ourselves with unlimited power, and that's exactly why Caliburn trusts us." A paradox. Thexus observed his scientific curiosity temporarily overriding his security concerns. The species least confident in their worthiness is deemed most worthy. "Something like that," Mara agreed. "But understanding the reason doesn't solve our immediate problem. The Council won't listen, and I can't simply give up Caliburn now. It's become part of me." "Then we face extinction," Thexus said, matter-of-factly. "The Council does not make idle threats." Elon had been quiet, his expression thoughtful. "What if we could prove the artifact's intentions are benevolent? Show them it's not a weapon but a gift." "How?" Mara asked. "They've already decided we're a threat." "The Council values evidence above all else," Elon said. "If we could demonstrate that Caliburn enhances rather than endangers, broadcast its true purpose to the entire station, even to Council headquarters." A plan began to form in Mara's mind, prompted partly by her own thoughts, and partly by subtle suggestions from Caliburn itself. The armor had bonded with her not just physically, but mentally, working in concert with her own intelligence. "We need to reach the central communications array," she said. "From there I can access the entire Alliance network." "Impossible," Thexus said immediately. "The communications center will be heavily guarded, and even if you reached it, initiating an unauthorized broadcast would trigger automatic security measures." "Not if you authorize it," Mara said, turning to the security chief. "You have the clearance." Thexus's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "You suggest I commit treason against the Alliance?" "I suggest you uphold the Alliance's true principles," Mara countered. "Knowledge, cooperation, progress. Isn't that what Athena 9 stands for? Or do we only study the past without learning from it?" The Voltraxian was silent for a long moment. Finally, he said, "You speak well, human. But words alone cannot counter a Council directive." "Then let me show you," Mara said, extending her hand. The liquid metal flowed like quicksilver, forming a small sphere in her palm. Within it, images appeared: star maps, equations, biological schematics, historical records. Knowledge so vast and varied, it defied easy categorization. Thexus leaned closer, his scientific nature overcoming caution. "The extinct Zahari civilization. I recognize these symbols. We've spent decades trying to decipher their language." "Caliburn contains the complete translation," Mara confirmed, "along with the cultural context to understand it properly." "And this," Elon said, pointing to a complex molecular structure revolving slowly within the sphere. "Is that what I think it is?" "A cure for Tannhauser's syndrome," Mara said quietly. "The degenerative disease that affects spacefaring species exposed to quantum wake distortion. Thousands die every year because we lack effective treatment." "Including my sister," Elon murmured. "She pilots long-haul transport ships." "This knowledge could save countless lives across all Alliance species," Mara continued. "But it's only a fraction of what Caliburn contains. There's so much more: clean energy solutions, environmental regeneration techniques, historical insights that could prevent future conflicts." Thexus's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "If what you show is genuine, The Council must be made aware. They're already aware, Mara said grimly. They fear it will disrupt the balance of power. Some species have held technological advantages for millennia, using them to maintain their positions in the hierarchy. Caliburn would level the playing field. Making humans equal partners, Elon realized. No longer the newest, weakest members. Not just humans, Mara corrected. All species would have access. That's the point. Caliburn wasn't meant for one civilization, but for any that had evolved enough wisdom to use it responsibly. Thexus straightened, coming to a decision. I will assist you in reaching the communications center. Not because I trust this artifact, but because I believe in the principles of scientific inquiry and the right of all evidence to be examined before judgment is passed. The journey through the station became a tactical challenge. Security forces patrolled every corridor, and automated systems had been programmed to detect and neutralize Mara's unique energy signature. Yet, with Thexus's security codes and Caliburn's ability to temporarily mask its energy output, they made steady progress. We're approaching the final security checkpoint, Thexus warned as they paused in a maintenance shaft. Beyond this point, even my clearance won't be sufficient. The communications center will be under direct council control. Mara nodded, the helmet reforming over her features. I can disable the systems long enough for us to enter, but we'll need to move quickly. What exactly do you plan to do once we're inside? Elon asked. A standard broadcast won't reach council headquarters in time to prevent their attack. Caliburn can amplify the signal, Mara explained. Send it through subspace channels, usually reserved for emergency directives. Every Alliance facility will receive it simultaneously. Such channels are heavily encrypted, Thexus pointed out. Even with the artifact's assistance breaking, that encryption would be unnecessary, Mara interrupted. Caliburn doesn't need to break the encryption. It helped design it thousands of years ago. The principles haven't changed, only the implementation. Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the station. A voice, Director Nalith's, echoed through the corridors. Attention all personnel. Evacuate immediately to emergency transport vessels. Repeat, evacuate immediately. This facility has been designated for Level 9 containment. You have 40 minutes to clear the area. They've accelerated the timeline, Thexus said, his normally impassive voice tinged with urgency. We must move now. The three unlikely allies emerged from the maintenance shaft into a corridor filled with panicked personnel rushing toward evacuation points. In the chaos, they managed to approach the communications center without attracting notice until the final checkpoint. Two Anthari guards flanked the entrance, their scales shimmering with defensive energy shields. Behind them stood Council Enforcer Vexalia herself, tall and imposing. Security Chief Thexus, she acknowledged coldly. You were ordered to evacuate with all other personnel. I have apprehended the human, Thexus replied, mandibles clicking in a formal pattern of respect. As per protocol, I am bringing her directly to you for judgment. Vexalia's vertical pupils narrowed suspiciously. Where is the security detail I assigned? Assisting with evacuation as ordered, Thexus said smoothly. Time is short and the human came willingly, once she understood the gravity of the situation. The Enforcer studied Mara's armored form with calculating eyes. Remove your helmet, human. I would see your face before I pass sentence. Mara hesitated, then complied, allowing the liquid metal to flow away from her head. She met the Anthari's gaze steadily. You endanger hundreds with your defiance, Vexalia said. Was your moment of power worth their lives? This isn't about power, Mara replied quietly. It never was. Caliburn chose humanity because we don't seek dominance. We seek understanding. Noble sentiments from a species barely out of its planetary cradle, the Enforcer said dismissively. Your time has expired. Surrender the artifact or face the consequences. Instead of responding verbally, Mara extended her hand, palm up. As before, the liquid metal formed a sphere, but this time the images within were specifically chosen. Anthari historical records, cultural achievements, scientific discoveries that had been lost over millennia of political upheaval and war. Vexalia's composure faltered for the first time. Where did you... How could you possibly know of these things? The Great Burning destroyed all such records centuries ago. Caliburn remembers, Mara said simply. It remembers everything, the achievements of every civilization, the knowledge lost to time and conflict. It preserves what would otherwise be forgotten. The enforcer's scales rippled with emotion. For a long moment she stood transfixed by the images of her people's lost heritage. Then, with visible effort, she tore her gaze away. Clever manipulation, human. But my duty remains clear. Guards seize her. The two Anthari guards moved forward, energy staffs raised. Thexus stepped protectively in front of Mara, but she gently moved him aside. No more deception, she said. No more evasion. With a gesture, she sent a pulse of blue energy outward, not aggressive, but revealing, showing her true intentions through direct mental imagery, rather than words that could be misinterpreted or disbelieved. The guards faltered, their weapons lowering slightly as the energy touched them. Even Vexalia seemed affected, her rigid posture softening. "What is this?" she demanded, but the steel had gone from her voice, replaced by uncertainty. "The truth," Mara replied, "unfiltered by preconception or prejudice. This is what Caliburn offers, not power over others, but clarity, understanding, the wisdom to see beyond our differences." Taking advantage of the moment of confusion, Elon slipped past the distracted guards and reached the communications console. With quick, practiced movements, he began the sequence to initiate a station-wide broadcast. "Stop him!" Vexalia ordered, recovering her composure. But before the guards could respond, the doors to the communications center slid open, revealing Director Nalith, flanked by several other department heads. "What is the meaning of this?" Nalith demanded, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with agitation. "Enforcer, why have you not contained the human? The evacuation is nearly complete." "Director," Mara said, turning to face the new arrivals, "please, before you condemn this station and everyone remaining on it, allow me to show you what Caliburn truly is." "The Council has made its decision," Nalith said firmly. "As director of this facility, I am bound by their judgment." "Are you also bound to ignore evidence that contradicts that judgment?" Mara challenged. "What happened to the Alliance's commitment to truth and knowledge above all else?" Nalith hesitated, her scientific training warring with her administrative duties. "Speak quickly, human. Time grows short." With a nod of gratitude, Mara raised both hands. The liquid metal flowed from her entire body, gathering into a spherical form that expanded until it filled the center of the room. Within it, a miniature cosmos took shape, stars, planets, galaxies, all rendered in exquisite detail. "This is what Caliburn contains," she explained, as the assembled aliens watched in fascination. "The complete astronomical knowledge of a civilization that mapped the entire galaxy before any of our species had achieved spaceflight. Every star system, every planet, every resource cataloged and preserved." The sphere shifted, now showing biological sequences, medical procedures, genetic modifications. Cures for diseases we thought incurable. Solutions to problems we haven't even recognized yet. Another shift revealing architectural marvels, transportation systems, energy networks more efficient than anything currently in use. Technologies that could transform every world in the Alliance, eliminate scarcity, and resource conflicts. Director Nalith moved closer, her scientific curiosity fully engaged. "How can we verify this is genuine, not simply an elaborate deception?" "Test it," Mara suggested. "Choose any field of study, any unsolved problem. Caliburn contains answers, not all answers, but many we've sought for generations." One of the department heads, a Krell physicist with translucent skin that revealed the complex network of nerves beneath, stepped forward. "The Teresian equation," he said. "No one has been able to resolve the final variables." The sphere rippled, then displayed a series of mathematical expressions, so complex they seemed almost organic in their structure. The Krell's eyes widened. This completes the work," he said in awe. It bridges quantum mechanics and relativistic physics in a way we never considered. And this is merely a fraction of what Caliburn offers, Mara said. Not as a weapon or a tool of dominance, but as a shared resource for all Alliance species. Vexalia had been watching silently, her expression unreadable. Now she moved forward, scales shimmering. The Council ordered containment because they feared humans would use this knowledge to upset the balance of power. What guarantee can you offer that this will not occur? None, Mara admitted. Except this Caliburn chose humanity precisely because we recognize we don't have all the answers. We know our own history too well to believe technology alone can solve every problem. We understand that knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. She looked around at the assembled representatives of various species. Caliburn doesn't belong to humans. It belongs to all of us, the entire Alliance. Its purpose isn't to elevate one species above others, but to remind us that our greatest achievements come through cooperation, not competition. A tense silence filled the room. Then, Director Nalith spoke, her voice quiet but firm. Enforcer Vexalia, I formally request a stay of containment, pending full scientific evaluation of this artifact and its implications. The Council has issued its directive, Vexalia replied, though with less conviction than before. I am bound to carry it out. There is precedent for emergency review. Thexus pointed out, stepping forward. Under Section 17 of the Alliance Charter, when new evidence of significant scientific or cultural importance emerges, even Council directives may be temporarily suspended for evaluation. The Enforcer's vertical pupils narrowed as she considered this. Such a suspension requires the consensus of at least 3 different species representatives of executive rank. You have mine, Director Nalith said immediately. And mine, added the Krell physicist. One by one, the other department heads voiced their agreement until representatives of 7 different species had spoken in favor of suspension. Vexalia studied them, then turned her gaze to Mara. You understand that if this proves to be deception, the consequences will be severe. Not just for you, but for your entire species. I understand, Mara said steadily, and I accept that responsibility. After a moment's consideration, the Enforcer nodded. Very well. I will inform the Council of this development and recommend a full review. Containment procedures are suspended pending their decision. The relief in the room was palpable. As the immediate threat receded, attention turned again to the marvel floating at the center, the accumulated knowledge of an ancient civilization preserved for millennia, and now finally accessible. This will change everything, Elan said quietly, coming to stand beside Mara. The entire Alliance will be transformed. That was always Caliburn's purpose, she replied. Not to benefit one civilization, but to ensure that when species reach the stars, they would have the wisdom of those who came before. As the initial excitement settled into focused scientific inquiry, teams were quickly formed to begin the monumental task of categorizing and verifying Caliburn's knowledge. The evacuation was halted, and those who had already departed were recalled. 3 days later, the Council's official response arrived. After reviewing the preliminary findings, they had voted not unanimously, but by a significant majority, to designate Athena 9 as the primary research center for what they now called the Caliburn Archive. More importantly, they had appointed Mara as the chief liaison between Caliburn and the Alliance scientific community. Librarian of Caliburn, Elan, remarked with a smile when he heard the news. It suits you. They stood together in what had been the exhibition hall, but was now being transformed into a vast research complex. The artifact itself, or rather the container that had housed it, remained on display as a historical curiosity. Caliburn itself had become part of Mara, the liquid metal, now a permanent interface between her mind and the vast repository of knowledge it contained. I'm still not sure I'm worthy of this responsibility, Mara admitted, watching teams of scientists from dozens of species working together with unprecedented cooperation. There's so much at stake. That's exactly why you are worthy, came a new voice. Director Nalith approached her bioluminescent markings, glowing with a calm, steady light that indicated respect. The council was initially skeptical, but they have come to see the wisdom in Caliburn's choice. Those who seek power rarely deserve it. Those who recognize its burden often prove most capable of bearing it. Mara nodded thoughtfully. I've been studying the civilization that created Caliburn. They reached heights we can barely imagine, mastered technologies that seemed like magic even to them. Do you know what destroyed them in the end? War, Elon guessed. Natural disaster. Evolution, Mara corrected. They transcended physical form entirely, becoming something beyond our comprehension. But before they departed, they left Caliburn as both a gift and a warning. Knowledge is precious, but wisdom is essential. Director Nalith's expression grew solemn. The Alliance has existed for millennia, yet we still struggle with the same challenges that faced our ancestors: fear, suspicion, the desire for advantage over others. Perhaps Caliburn's true purpose is not merely to share knowledge but to remind us of what truly matters. Cooperation, Mara said. Understanding, the recognition that we achieve more together than we ever could alone. As if in response to her words, the liquid metal that had become part of her pulsed gently with blue light, not a display of power, but a reminder of possibility, of potential yet to be realized. The news spread quickly throughout the Alliance. Humanity, long considered the least significant member species, had become the focal point of a scientific and cultural renaissance. The Caliburn Archive offered solutions to problems that had plagued civilizations for centuries: cleaner energy sources, more efficient food production, advanced medical treatments. But perhaps most significant was the change in perception. Humans, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, were now recognized for the quality that had made them Caliburn's chosen vessels: their humility in the face of knowledge, their awareness of their own limitations. 6 months after the initial discovery, Mara stood before the full, multi-universal council, no longer an outsider, but a respected voice. The silver-blue armor that had once been Caliburn flowed around her like scholarly robes, rather than a weapon of war, a visual representation of knowledge embraced, not power seized. The integration of Caliburn's knowledge must be gradual, she advised the assembled representatives. Technology without cultural preparation can cause more harm than good. We must be patient, thorough, and above all wise in how we implement these discoveries. The council, initially skeptical, had come to appreciate this measured approach. The wisdom of an ancient civilization filtered through human caution offered a path forward that balanced progress with prudence. As she concluded her presentation, Mara caught Elon's eye in the audience. He gave her a small nod of encouragement, a reminder of how far they had come from that fateful night in the exhibition hall. Caliburn chose humanity, not because we were exceptional, she told the council, but because we understood we weren't. In our brief history among the stars, we've learned what many older civilizations forgot, that knowledge without humility leads to arrogance, and arrogance inevitably leads to downfall. She looked around at the representatives of dozens of species, each with their own history, their own strengths and weaknesses. The artifacts we preserve at Athena 9 are more than relics of the past. They are reminders that every great civilization eventually faces a choice to use their power wisely or to be consumed by it. Caliburn offers us not just knowledge, but a second chance to make the right choice together. As she spoke, the armor around her pulsed with gentle blue light, not a display of power, but a promise of possibility. A future where the wisdom of the past guided the achievements of the present, where cooperation replaced competition, and where the measure of a civilization was not its dominance, but its capacity for growth. The armor that had rejected every alien until it found a human had become something more than a relic or a weapon. It had become a bridge between past and future, between species and worlds, between knowledge and wisdom. And in Mara, It had found not just a worthy vessel, but a partner in shaping a new era for the entire alliance. As the council session concluded, Mara stepped down from the podium, the weight of responsibility balanced by the lightness of purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them not as separate species competing for advantage, but as a united alliance stronger together than they ever could be apart. And in that unity lay the true power, not of Caliburn, not of humanity, but of the endless possibility that emerged when knowledge was shared, respect was mutual, and the future was faced with both courage and humility.